Have you ever used a plastic straw? Your answer is likely yes, and if not, your window of opportunity is coming to a close. Recently, the banning of plastic straws has taken within various states and companies like Disney, Starbucks, McDonald's, and the city of Seattle. The goal of these companies' action is to reduce the alarming amount of plastic waste prevalent in our oceans while replacing straws with metal and paper ones. Starbucks will get rid of its straws by 2020, and McDonald's has replaced plastic straws with paper ones in their UK restaurants from USA Today. Big companies in even states like these are taking action on this ban, and it's starting to become a popular trend. Speaking of popular trends, the Save the Turtles campaign is one that has been heavily discussed and seen all throughout various types of media. Many believe this is a very effective way of saving our planet, though sadly, this is not the case. Even though reducing plastic use day by day is helpful to our planet, simply replacing plastic straws with metal or paper is 1. Not helpful enough to the bigger issue of our planet is facing, climate change, and 2. Is just as harmful as plastic straws, since these replacements have negative effects on our society as well. Within this video, I will be discussing why the banning and replacement of plastic straws does not have enough of an impact for us to focus on, with bigger issues for our planet like climate change ahead. Firstly, let's discuss plastic. According to Travis Wagner, a professor and worker in the Department of Environmental Science at the University of South Maine, in his book Sustainability and Plastic Waste, he mentions that this action is being taken in order to stop the production of plastic in the first place. Quote, "Most efforts to address plastic waste have been undertaken by local governments, but increasingly national and state and level governments are seeking to shift the environmental responsibility of plastic waste back onto the producers as a means to reduce plastic waste." End quote. As you can see, much of the blame is going back to the producers of plastic in order to place blame and stop the production of it in the first place. This is what various companies are doing, reducing plastic waste by stopping the production and banning of it, but how effective really is this? ASQ headquarters writer Lindsay Porto writes, in Singling Out Plastics, Cities, Countries, and Organizations Take a Stand Against Bags, Bottles, and Straws, that there is evidence that provides this ban has not had a big enough impact on our planet to continue on. Quote, "Of the 60 countries that have implemented bans on single-use plastics, only 30% said it has dramatically reduced consumption or pollution. Half said they had no data on this ban's impact, and 20% said it had little to no impact." End quote. Clearly shown, the problem of climate change is not affected enough by this ban to keep it going. But before we get into the negative effects of plastic straw replacements, let's discuss more about why only the action of replacing plastic straws is not effective. From banning plastic straws is a little like spitting in the wind, author and UK science writer for BuzzFeed, CNN, and the Daily Telegraph newspaper, Tom Chivers, writes about how even though reducing plastic is a good thing that we can do to help the environment, it is not going to solve the bigger issue of climate change. Quote, "It sounds positive, but it's worth nothing that. Although billions of plastic straws a year sounds like a lot, it's a drop in the already plastic-filled oceans when it comes to the plastic waste." End quote. This optimistic yet realistic view on this issue makes you realize that though it does technically help the planet, it will not when we are dying from heat exhaustion, drought, wildfires, etc. in the future. Climate change has also had a big impact from President Trump. Quote, "Given the general perception that the Trump administration reduced its commitment to combating climate change more than anticipated, we predict a further increase in the value of firms with high climate risk relative to firms with low climate risk." From Henk Berkman's Firm Value and Government Commitment to Combating Climate Change article. This shows how the little care or concern about climate change from Trump's administration impacts the development of its solution. Also, his election increased the amount of polluting firms. Quote, "The unexpected election of Donald Trump as president of the U.S. election resulted in a significant value increase for polluting firms relative to same industry non-polluters of around 1%. However, here are some things you can do personally to help the planet that do not have harmful effects on society and can make a big step towards climate change. Bring a reusable bag to the grocery store and keep reusing it. Replace plastic bottles with metal ones. Some coffee shops, including Starbucks, will even knock a few cents off your coffee if you bring your own bottle. Buy non-perishable food such as beans, rice, pasta, and other grains in bulk to reduce packaging, and take your own reusable containers to the store to avoid bags. Pack lunches or snacks in reusable containers instead of plastic baggies, and bring your own reusable containers to restaurants. Most will let you use your own container for takeout or to pack leftovers, as seen in an article from Vox. Now, for plastic straw replacements, well, they suck. Plastic straws are priceless to people who can't lift a cup. Paper straws are wasteful and dissolve in your drink, while metal straws can burn people who are drinking hot liquids. Paper straws are also bad for the environment, making them requires cutting down trees, in an article from Scholastic. Gina Martinez, author of Time Magazine's Disability Advocates Speak Out Against Plastic Straw Bans, explains how the ban was put in use without even considering what the disabled go through and how plastic straws are a necessity for them to function. The disabled have not been a part of this conversation, making this issue very concerning. One example of this is about how a disabled woman's experience in a local restaurant she visited, and this is a thread of her tweets about the experience. This tweet shows how the disabled are actively ignored and that plastic straw bans are just another thing that the disabled community has to go through day to day on top of the difficult aspects disabledness brings. One last, very violent and scary example is about a 6-year-old Elena Struthers Gardner, a disabled British woman who was impaled by her metal straw after falling in her own home. The death of this woman, who was just trying to live her life as best as she could with the struggle of having a disability, is a sad example of how replacing plastic straws can turn deadly quick. This shows how plastic straw replacements are not only wasteful, but a danger to you and your safety as well. Overall, the replacement of plastic straws with metal and paper ones defeats the purpose of helping the planet, since the replacements have just as harmful effects on those, like the disabled, who need them to function in their everyday lives. Though reducing the amount of plastic waste made does help the environment, it does not combat for the bigger issue that lies ahead, climate change. Reducing plastic helps the planet, but is not something we should be rallying and focusing on, since our world has a bigger fish to fry, with climate change already impacting and destroying our world.